Everyone has a story. And so does everything. Antique, vintage, or curio.
Honestly, so exciting to see a doll like this from the 1800s in such incredible condition.
Like, we've had collections that have sold for, tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Technological innovations, cultural significance, personal memories. What is it that gives each of these unique items their timeless quality?
Can't find these anywhere.
No. Join us as we blow off the dust and breathe new life into the past and the curious. In this episode of The Past and the Curious, we journey through the whimsical world of ventriloquism, historical war memorabilia, and ancient fertility symbols. Explore the mystery of Valdivian fertility statues.
To think back that this is some of the first clay firings in the Americas is incredible, and I can just imagine sitting there as they were discovering this new practice.
Uncover the significance of a Korean War safe conduct pass.
This war in Korea led to the separation of North and South Korea, which still exists today and still has animosity.
Meet a charming ventriloquist dummy.
I don't see a lot of ventriloquist dummies in my line of work, but there's something that fascinates me. I love, theatrics, I love old entertainment, and he is a perfect form of that.
My name's Laura Leonard. I'm the curatorial assistant at the Bruce County Museum and Cultural Center, and today I've brought Jerry, our ventriloquist dummy. I've been with the museum since 2007, and Jerry's been with the museum since 1957. My career has been there, and he's always been a part of it.
From its enigmatic origins in ancient Egypt and Greece, to its revival in the hands of pioneers like entertainer Fred Russell, ventriloquism has captivated audiences for centuries. In the annals of history, ventriloquism was not strictly for entertainment, but was also seen as a mystical practice, its masters interpreting eerie sounds as messages from beyond. Louis Brabant and Henry King whispered secrets to European kings, while Fred Russell revolutionized the art with his knee-sitting figures, breaking tradition with each performance. But ventriloquism's influence didn't stop there. It found its way onto the small screen thanks to pioneers like Edgar Bergen, who brought comedy and character play to early television. And on the stage, it added a unique dimension to comedy, theater, and children's entertainment, inspiring generations of performers to craft tales and characters that live on in our collective imagination.
Welcome, Laura. Thank you so much for bringing Jerry in with you today. Tell me, what on earth am I looking at here?
Well, this is Jerry. He is a ventriloquist doll or dummy, and he dates from roughly the late 1860s into the 1870s.
Wow.
Yes, so he belonged to a fellow from a town called Paisley in Ontario, and he traveled throughout Bruce County and some of the neighboring counties like Dufferin. He performed for all kinds of folks at all different kinds of events, and this is just one of a pair. Jerry does have a brother named Joe, which unfortunately has been lost to time, and he's all that remains. R.C. Pierce is a ventriloquist who worked with Jerry. He was born in 1862 in Lockerbie, Ontario. He delighted audiences starting in the 1890s with Jerry as well as his brother Joe until around 1910.
Can you walk me through sort of what makes Jerry Jerry?
Sure. So he is very folk artish in a way. So starting at the top and kind of working your way down here, his hair is made of hay or straw. His body is wooden, so his arms and his legs and his head and the top part of his chest and his neck. Inside, he is kind of like a wool stockingette. And he does have a little space at the back of his head where the ventriloquist, whose name is R.C. Pierce, would be able to put in his hand. His outfit is created by R.C. Pierce's mother in the 1890s. We still don't know exactly when Joe was stolen. So what we know about Joe comes from newspapers and from the family story. So from the family story, we know that once Joe was stolen, that R.C. Pierce was so heartbroken that somebody would do such a thing that he just stopped entertaining altogether.
It's honestly so exciting to see a doll like this from the 1800s in such incredible condition. Can you walk me through what makes Jerry so unique?
Sure. So we can start at the top. Jerry is what's kind of known as a chin wagger. So his lips don't necessarily move, it's his chin that bobbles in and out, and that's what gives him his voice. So his head, neck, arms, and legs are made of wood, and they are definitely hand carved. If you look a little bit up close, you'll be able to kind of see that sort of craftsmanship.
I don't see a lot of ventriloquist dummies in my line of work, but there's something that fascinates me. I love, theatrics. I love old entertainment, and he is a perfect form of that. Laura, how rare is a doll like Jerry?
A little bit of a difficult question. I guess it depends how many ventriloquists are out there and stuff survives. But I know, for our area, he's it.
What is it about Jerry that would have made him unique as a performance tool at the time?
So again, looking through the newspapers about the history of the shows that Jerry and R.C. Pierce and Joe were part of, a big part of it was a lot of times they would say that R.C. Pierce, he was second to none. His talent was amazing, and that's an important part of it, right? If the audience isn't buying it, it's not there. So it's not just about being able to perform ventriloquism. The other part of that is being a real entertainer.
Laurie, when you look at Jerry, what kind of does he bring to mind?
For myself personally, I don't actually find him creepy, so I'm probably one of the only people that doesn't. It reminds me of almost like simpler times, although they really weren't necessarily so. But that idea where there's something is happening, you're watching a show, and there's no CGI, there's no nothing. It's just what you see is what you get, and it needed to be good. What I find actually very interesting is that there is this resurgence actually of ventriloquism. So there is quite a few famous ones now that have residencies in Vegas. People are loving them. And again, I don't know if it takes them back in some sort of way, but it's just a person and, and their talent.
Can you ever imagine the museum parting with Jerry?
No, he has to be the most famous, artifact that we probably have. And his value to us and the person that he represents, the entertainment styles that people of Bruce County were into at a certain particular part of time, that part for us really is priceless. So Bridget, though the museum would never part with Jerry, do you have any idea what his value would be?
He's an incredibly rare piece. The fact that he is a true piece of folk art, he's in really fantastic condition. I would value him in the range of $2,500 to $3,000. But I have to say, I think the value with Jerry lies in his stories and his history with you at the museum. I was so excited when I found out I was going to have the chance to meet Jerry today. Jerry is iconic, he's a legend, and he did not disappoint. He is both sweet and terrifying and was really endearing in the end.
More remarkable relics after the break.
These were distributed by airplane, so they would have been dropped on the troops.
My name is James Robert Farmer, and I brought in a safe conduct pass from the Korean War, 1950 to 1953.
Amidst the chaos of the Korean War, a surreal scene unfolded as a cascade of United Nations issued safe conduct passes descended from the skies. The passes, some resembling North Korean 101 bills to entice people to pick them up, were first issued in the early 1950s. These passes were part of a psychologically strategic operation aimed at encouraging enemy soldiers to surrender, with the promise of safe passage through UN lines. Similar tactics were used in World War II, where Allied forces dropped millions of safe conduct leaflets over enemy territories to encourage surrender. The ambiguity of these passes, with instructions in multiple languages including Korean, English, and Chinese, added to their complexity. Safe conduct passes were simultaneously symbols of hope and harbingers of doubt, leaving those who clutched them torn between desperation and cautious optimism.
Hi, James. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Linda.
What is it you've brought to share with us?
Well, Linda, what I've brought today is a safe conduct pass. And this was issued during the Korean War, which was fought in North and South Korea between 1950 and 1953. The Safe Conduct Pass was issued by the People's Volunteer Army, which was representative of the People's Republic of China. The People's Republic of China was associated directly with the North Korean Army. And the Safe Conduct Pass was issued to those in the United Nations Armed Forces. It was a propaganda tool that was dropped in zones of conflict and other areas, and it guaranteed to those who turned it in, if they were combatants for the UN forces fighting on behalf of the South Korean Army, that they would not be harmed by the People's Volunteer Army of China.
This war in Korea led to the separation of North and South Korea, which still exists today and still has animosity. And there's still propaganda going on between these two countries and between the East and the West. James, how did you happen to have this in your possession?
Well, Linda, I wish I could tell you definitively, but I have a couple of theories. An uncle of mine, his name was Byrne Gibbs, and he lived in Barrie, Ontario. I know that he fought during the Korean War for the Canadian military, and possibly it was gotten from him, or it was an item that my father, Ed Farmer, would have traded for or bought.
So I do believe that this was printed in China, in Beijing, and it was printed on rice paper and using natural inks. And it's printed in a number of languages because the troops that it was aimed at were from a number of different countries. These were distributed by airplane, so they would have been dropped on the troops that were on the field. And in the pass, it suggests that they will give safe passage to anyone who brings this pass to the enemy. It says that they will not be harmed, that they will be able to keep all of their possessions, and that if they need medical attention, that they will receive it.
Do we know if that actually transpired?
Well, that's a question the troop who was trying to get out of the war situation would have to balance, wouldn't he? Whether or not he's going to believe this, or if he's that desperate to leave the battlefield, maybe he'll take a chance. I don't know that I would have.
Linda, I'm curious, how rare is an item like this, a Safe Conduct Pass from the Korean War?
Well, it's a little difficult to say. I'm sure that there are quite a few around there because they would have been dropped by the thousands, and I'm sure the soldiers brought them back as souvenirs. I'm sure that the War Museum in Ottawa probably has a number. Anyone who collects war memorabilia would be really interested in having these, so I'm sure that there are quite a few around.
Oh, that's great. That's good to know. Thank you very much.
I think your document certainly tells us the psychological aspect of warfare at that time and how they were trying to influence the troops and come at warfare from a different angle than just guns.
Right.
Passes like this have paved the way for psychological warfare that's going on still today. Can you imagine how valuable this piece of paper would have been for a soldier at that time? This document would give that soldier who's struggling for his life some hope that he would survive.
Right. And given that this was only 5 years after the end of the Second World War, which was horrific, that hope is obviously something that's incredibly valuable to anyone in this armed conflict. It's very important to preserve historical documents, historical artifacts, things that can bring to life history, because those who do not learn from history will repeat it.
James, thank you so much for sharing this with us today.
You're welcome.
What is your plan for it going forward?
Well, I think in the immediate future, we'll have to treat it with care, put it into an airtight sleeve of some description, acid-free, and consider our options with respect to selling the item to an appropriate party.
So James, you would be open to part with this treasure? You're willing to sell it?
Oh, most definitely, because it's not something that my brother and I really feel strongly about, and it would be better if there was someone who could really appreciate it, could own it. Would you be able to provide me with a reasonable estimate of what this might sell on the free market?
Well, looking at the piece, it looks to be in really very good condition. I do believe, to the right person, it would be priceless.
Thank you, thank you. My brother and I will most likely begin the conservation of the past because we'd like to find a good home for the past, be it a museum or a private collector.
I think what we need to keep in mind today is that people gave their lives for freedom, for democracy, and to keep us, allow us to have the kind of life that we have now. So we need to look at passes like this as a memorial to those soldiers who died in that conflict.
Up next, uncover more stories etched in time.
There is something intriguing about these in terms of the context of what did they mean to the ancient people. My name is Caroline Pazanus, and today I have brought in 2 sets of Ecuadorian fertility figurines. I'm an archaeologist, so of course the fact that they are 5,000 years old is intriguing, and as far as my connection, they made their way to an antique shop where I work, and the owner of the shop, it belongs in his private collection.
The Valdivian culture, which thrived along the coastal regions of Ecuador and Peru between 3,500 and 1500 BC, is celebrated for its early advancements in pottery and figurine creation. Discovered by archaeologist Emilio Estrada in the 1950s, the Valdivian culture is one of the oldest settled cultures in the Americas. Valdivian clay figurines, often associated with fertility rituals and agricultural practices, predominantly feature female forms with pronounced physical characteristics, such as prominent breasts and detailed hairstyles. They are usually found near cooking and food preparation areas in the home and serve as a reminder of life and sustenance. Valdivian figurines were crafted from single blocks of clay and ranged in height from 4 to 20 centimeters. This artistic legacy provides a profound insight into the cultural and societal values of one of the earliest civilizations in the Americas.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Caroline. I was wondering, can you tell me a little bit about these items?
What we are looking at actually are what are called Valdivian figurines. Also, in other cultures, you've sometimes heard the term Venus figurines. They are from Ecuador, roughly probably about 5,000 years old. The culture itself was around maybe 4,400 BC to about 1,400 BC. So these are quite ancient and rare that we actually have these here today.
Caroline, these are really interesting. What stands out to you the most about them?
I think what it is when I come across any sort of artifact like this that is man-made, I find there is a charm there. There's a sort of admiration I have for human endeavor. There is something intriguing about these as well in terms of the context of how we find them, where they are, what purpose they used. What did they mean to the ancient people?
I wonder if you would be able to walk us through some of the physical details of these.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially these are ceramics. So these were made from clay. You do have the remains of that red ochre paint that you see here on the larger 2 figurines. The smaller ones, either the paint has worn off or they weren't painted.
In Valdivian culture, these figures are linked to fertility. Would you be able to tell me a little bit about that?
So essentially, there had been some figurines that were found in what you would call more of a ritual space when the excavations were done. But that fact that they were in that domestic space shows that either they had different meanings or the meanings were fluid. So if it was fertility for the crops, that might work more in that organized ritual sort of temple sense, the state religion, but also in the home because of the emphasis on family unit, something to protect pregnant women while they were pregnant. perhaps the breaking of these figurines may just be some sort of talisman, some acting out to ward off evil during the pregnancy, or it could represent something we just don't know. I would say they are quite rare. I've never seen, my background is not specifically Ecuador, but even in my excavations over in the Near East or in Greece, it's rare that I have turned anything up like that.
So I know this culture was one of the first clay makers in the Americas. What do you think sort of set them apart at their time period?
I think the fact that these are not just a shapeless blob of clay, but they are almost like you see in larger statues when you are in other sort of cultures, whether that's Egypt or some of the Mesopotamian. But you're sort of seeing a miniature version of that with the detailing. The detailing on the face is what really draws me. The expression, the eyes, it's almost as if, I wonder about the time it took to create each one of these. But I mean, they're great examples of works in clay ceramics, they really are. And I just think they're quite phenomenal.
So from a collector's perspective, how important would a piece like this be to them?
They have turned up at auctions, and I'm sure they do sell without a doubt. There always seems to be an audience for this sort of mother figurine and this type of art, even in modern art. I know Picasso, even though it's abstracted and stuff, it's still creating the same thing thousands of years later. But the worship of the female or birth, the idea of the birth process. But I think these definitely, the reason collectors would like them is it's their rarity. It's also their beauty. There is a beauty to this kind of, there's an elegance to these figurines.
To think back that this is some of the first clay firings in the Americas is incredible. And I can just imagine sitting there as they were discovering this new practice.
That's true. And especially you think of these sort of civilizations that were based along, say, the coast where you have the ocean, and just to those people, what it meant day-to-day life, like how did their brain work in terms of what were they thinking about the world and their place in the world. And I think we see glimpses of that in their art.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. What's the plan with these figurines moving forward?
They will stay for now. They are in the private collection of the owner of the shop, who doesn't want to part with them. He's very attached and was concerned about bringing them here today. So I think he's rather attached to these sort of beautiful figurines.
So you probably have a decent idea of what these are valued at. From my research, judging by the idea that they're intact, their detail is very beautiful, and like you're mentioning, you can still see the paint on them. I would think that they would be worth anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000.
I think the important thing we take away from this, as we do with all artifacts and history, is that we can't really put a price on it. It has a value that is beyond the dollar amount. In that sense, it's priceless, and it's what it sort of gives to us that is very, very special. I hope that the viewers watching the show aren't just entertained by the variety of antiques and collectibles and the tales, but it does pique their curiosity to learn more about some of those cultures that are definitely in the past, but are still part of the present.